This may be the most dangerous sermon that I've ever preached. And I'm only half kidding. Not in terms of heresy. I'm not worried about that. You guys don't care so much about heresy. You wouldn't turn me in if you did. But the point is, I wouldn't want to be misinterpreted today. It's important. I would never want you to think that I or the church recommended that you do something that is dangerous to you personally or to your relationships. And so just know that that's not what I'm calling you to do. That's not what I'm talking to you about today. There is risk to being a Christian, there's no question. When God calls you, God clearly says, Jesus says, pick up your cross and follow me. And he's not talking about some palm cross. He's not talking about a silver cross. He's talking about a real cross on which you will suffer. And so there is risk to being a Christian. But that's between you and God too. That's not me saying to you, hey, listen, go hang yourself on a cross. But what I want to talk to you about today is dangerous. Now, why all that? All that warning because of this story today. The story you know, it's in all four Gospels, and often when a story shows up in all four Gospels, Matthew, Mark, and Luke will be kind of the same, and John will be the outlier. Today it's different, actually. Matthew, Mark, and John are kind of the same, and Luke is the outlier. Luke has this cast in a different way, but John is what we get today. John actually names the woman. You know this story, right? A woman comes, they're having dinner, and a woman breaks open some say an alabaster jar, that's a famous song, but breaks open this jar of pure nard, a pound of costly perfume. In John's gospel, she's named. She's named as Mary, the same Mary that we've heard of earlier. Remember Lazarus? Jesus raised from the dead, and Lazarus has two sisters, Martha and Mary. We've heard of them before because they're at dinner and Mary's in the kitchen complaining because Martha's in the kitchen complaining because Mary doesn't help her. Oh my gosh. And Jesus says, no, Martha, you worry about too many things. Mary's focused on the right. Same group, brother and two sisters. John has them named in this story. She comes and she cracks open this jar of expensive perfume, this nard, meant for anointing at funerals or at the crowning of a king. And both of which are about to happen to Jesus. He's really crowned as a king, but he's also going to his funeral. So there's symbolic theology there. But what I want to talk about today is the extravagance of that act. Because it's not just like you went to, someplace and you bought a bottle of perfume. This is a pound of pure nard. Now, they said in today's dollars it would be the equivalent to about $20,000. $20,000 worth of perfume. Who, besides Jill Selby, has that much perfume? That was a joke, Jill. I just picked it up on the fly. Just on the fly like that. I'm sorry. I'm quick like that. But who? Honestly, that's a lot of perfume, right? What if we had it to here today? What if we had $20,000 worth of perfume? It would smell to high heavens. Right? That's a lot of perfume. And she breaks it. She doesn't just take a little bit and say, here's for this, and we'll save this for later. She breaks the whole thing open and uses the whole thing. It cannot be reused. It's extravagant. It's illogical. It's irrational. It's probably irresponsible. In fact, Judas, who now normally we think of Judas as a bad guy, in this text, John casts him as, John puts in this little parenthetical part, well, he's really just going to steal the money, so don't think he's so good. But really, what John is saying, Judas, is he's saying what I would say. He's saying the logical thing. Why would you do that? That's crazy. Sell that money, or sell that perfume, and give that money to the poor. What if I went to the bank account? I wouldn't do this, but what if I did? The church bank account took out $20,000 and just threw it away. Burned it. You'd get mad, wouldn't you? You'd say, that's the stupidest thing ever. Yes, you should have saved that money. At least give that money to the poor, right? Now, the funny thing about this text is Jesus approves of her illogical, irrational, irresponsible act. He doesn't say, good point. Good, which we would expect him to say. Good point, Jesus. We've been trying to take care of the poor my whole time here. That's what we're supposed to do. You know, he says, she's doing the right thing. And that's what I want to talk to you about today. It's such an, I think it's just irrational and probably irresponsible. And so that's the dangerous thing I want to talk about. Here's the dangerous part. When's the last time you did something that was illogical, irrational, and irresponsible? Now, I'm not suggesting that you, this is where I have to have a caveat, a warning sign. I'm not suggesting that you go take out all your money and go to Vegas, right? I'm not suggesting you leave your beloved and go to Manila or someplace. I'm not suggesting any of that. But you could take it that way. That's what I want to make sure you don't misrepresent me. Father Mark, well, you go home and you say to your spouse, well, you should come to church today because Father Mark said, I have to leave. Not that. But I'm asking you, this is a great story about extravagance and doing something that's illogical and irrational and irresponsible even. And Jesus says, that's right, because the motivation is love. Now, I've done lots of illogical, irrational things in my life. Some of them turned out well, some of them not so well, right? But, you know, adopting, that was, we were not at an age we should have done that. You know, going to seminary, not really that logical, right? But anything I've done in my life pales in comparison to the story I want to tell you. I know a couple, you may know them too, who were about to retire. They had reached retirement age, both of them. And they were selling everything that they had. They were going to sell all their stuff and their place where they lived. And they were going to move to, I think, it was somewhere in Central America, I think, or the Caribbean. Let's say Costa Rica. I think that's right. Something like that. They had it all picked out. And where they were going to go, they had the lot and all that jazz. And they were going to go live in this tropical paradise for the rest of their lives. Live out their retirement. Enjoy and comfort in the sun. After having worked their whole lives. They didn't have children. As they were preparing for this trip, they got a call from a social worker in Omaha who said, we have a woman here who you fostered when she was younger. She was your foster child. Now she has grown and she has 3 children. And she can't keep those children. She's lost custody of them, and we're looking for someone to take those children. Now, mind you, this couple is beyond the child rearing age, the time when you should adopt a child. And yet, they said, we're forgetting about the plans that we made. We're going to stay here in this valley, and we're going to take these 3 kids. And they have. And it has been one of the greatest joys of my life. I'm getting emotional thinking about it. It's one of the greatest joys of my life to watch those children flourish and blossom, because they weren't prepared for life the way that many of us were. And they have, you could just see them grow into these amazing young people. Now that's what I'm talking about when I'm talking about extravagant, illogical, even irresponsible love. And here's the kicker. You won't believe this. There's another child. The same woman had another baby. And they're going to take that baby. Now, even I think this is irresponsible. Even I think this is too much. But they're going to do it. And so that's what I think we're talking about here. We're talking about an extravagant thing. Now, motivation is the key to the danger. Like if your motivation is wrong, be careful. But if your motivation is love, maybe it's gonna work out. Like God's gonna make it work out. See, love is in and of itself inherently irrational, is it not? Love is irrational. Now, of course, when you get together in romantic love, you're doing all kinds of irrational things, but just neighbor love, love of other, that is irrational. But when you pour yourself out like that, God can take that, and when the motivation is love, God can turn that into something extraordinary. God can change lives that way, and so that's really what I wanted to tell you today. that I want you to consider what might happen in your life if you acted in a way that was extraordinary, extravagant, illogical, and irrational out of love. Because we are not called, this I am very clear on, we are not called to hoard wealth. That is not our purpose in life. We are not called to build barriers between us and other people. We are not called, right, to enrich ourselves at the expense of others. Make a living, of course. But we are not called to focus inward. We are called, what we are called to do is to live in community and to live lives of extravagant love. So ask yourself, not what would Jesus do? Ask yourself, what would Mary do? I'm just suggesting to you that this week or this month or this year, you're going to get an opportunity. Something's going to happen, but you won't recognize it unless you have your eyes wide open. Something will happen, and you're going to be given a chance to offer up your life, to crack your life open in some kind of extravagant, illogical, irresponsible way. And of course there will be risk. Of course there will. And you can say, well, what if it doesn't work out? But the thing about love is you have to ask the question, yeah, what if it does?